I am the Eggman. I am the walrus. I'm the taxi driver? Cuckoo Cachoo. This is the OSMcast.
Hello and welcome to the OSMcast, your podcast for everything awesome. I'm Basil.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Douglas.
And I'm Dylan.
And that is us. So, something I wanted to ask everyone before we really get started, because I know right now, right this moment in time as we are recording, the Third Impact Anime podcast is also recording on their own topic, which is covering this past spring anime season. So we're going to get the jump on them, but not really. So, any anime that struck your fancy over this past season?
I really liked Farewell, My Dear Kramer.
I was pretty pleased with Shadow House.
I maybe should have been watching that.
You definitely should have been watching that.
I actually just saw people talking about it very recently.
Yeah, it ended really well. Its ending was basically just like the ending of the fourth story arc, and so there's a whole lot more mystery still left. There's a whole lot going on, but we don't have any of the answers because the manga is still in production, and they're going to make the next season whenever they get enough manga out to make another season. They're doing it similar to how that superhero anime does things. And people seem to like that. It seems to be a pretty good solution, but it did wrap up this current story arc, and it was very satisfying end in a season where it seemed like a lot of anime had a really hard time sticking their ending. Like, Revi is also really good right until the final story arc.
I also really super liked Dynazenon, the follow-up to Gridman. But there were definitely some meh shows floating around, or stuff that managed to be pretty good right up about until they were supposed to be ending.
Is it Revi or Vivi?
Oh, now I know what you're talking about, and I'm partially blanking on the title.
I think it's Vivi. I always hear people say, or at least type out Vivi.
That's what it is.
Vivi.
Yeah. It's really good. It's really, really, really good. Like, if you just love beautiful animation and you just want to watch something that is really beautifully animated, this is the show. It has a really great science fiction plot up until the last story arc, and then we start getting into like the territory of there's a lot of plot holes that they created that they didn't necessarily have to create, but they did everything they did because they were pretty much sticking to the story beat playbook, regardless of if it made sense or not, in a show that is otherwise built on entirely making sense. So
I would also like to, inadvertently plug the other podcasts I tend to moonlight on, the Taikyu Sports Anime Podcast, because I'll be on there talking about both Birding Kabaddi and Backflip, which were two of the other sports shows that came up this past season, and they are both very good.
Oh yeah, I actually finished Kabaddi.
I was actually intending to watch Backflip. I was super into it, but I have to watch. I have to watch for two, and the other half doesn't like boys sports anime quite as much as I do.
Yeah, considering I watched both Kramer and Kabaddi, that's like 200% more sports anime than I usually watch in a season.
Like, Barry's in the other room right now watching something that I think I flat out refuse to keep watching. I can't remember what it's called, but that's okay because he outright refused to watch the rest of Shadow House after it punched him in the ovaries. So,
well, if you too want to get punched No, I can't finish that. That
Right in the ovaries.
can't say that. If you want more of our opinions on things like anime and video games and whatnot, I do heartily recommend joining the OSMcast Discord, where we talk about all sorts of things, including food.
Oh gosh, we talk
There's
about
a lot
food
of
so
talk
much.
about food.
Food is the most active channel.
It is. But
And the one I stubbornly refuse to interact with.
Why?
I don't like food.
Huh.
That actually works as a broad statement. I don't like food.
It literally keeps you alive.
I know.
Yeah,
and
but
I
have you
resent
seen
it.
what Kevin eats? Like we'll
No.
go to all kinds of restaurants, and Kevin will manage to find the one thing that is the closest thing to chicken fingers on the menu. Like it could be any cuisine. We'll go to like an Indian place, and he'll somehow figure out how to order chicken fingers.
Or, hamburger, or, I don't know, meats. Like, meat is good. I mean, it keeps me alive. But, like I said, I sort of resent food for that.
Maybe if you would branch out and try a broader range of things, then perhaps you would develop a love for food.
That rarely works out well for me.
But something that would work out wonderfully for us is if you subscribe to our Patreon and give us some money.
I'll attempt to broaden my food interest if more people subscribe to the Patreon.
Oh no, that is a
Hey,
That's a
That's a
dangerous
blank
promise.
check.
Dylan, that's on Kevin. That's not on you. That's
a
on
dangerous
Kevin.
promise, but it's what I'll
I know,
make.
but
Okay, let's make this a hard promise. What is the dollar amount that it would take for some people? If enough people sign up per month, at what point will you try a new thing, and will you what is the dollar amount that you will let somebody random off the internet tell you what to eat?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Charlie is already upping his pledge, I'm sure.
That's a good question, because I don't even know what kind of a going rate would be here, but
I think it should be $10.
we can get up to someone subscribing $10 or $10 total in
Yeah,
subscription.
if you do a $10 subscription, you can tell Kevin one meal to eat, and he has to eat that meal unless it's something like objectively disgusting. Like you can't tell Kevin to eat like a mud pie. Like it has to be a real dish.
Yeah.
I think we reserve the right to all vote on this as the OSMcast to veto.
Yeah.
Should be a
And-
little
and-
more than $10. $10 is like the cost of a nice meal.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
$10, you are essentially buying Kevin that meal.
I draw the line at balut.
I would honestly say $10 is the price of a nice meal at McDonald's.
Okay, so you think we should move it up to like $20 just to cover the cost of the nice meal?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, that sounds
Okay,
good.
$20. Buy Kevin a meal, and you can tell him what to eat, and he'll try something other than chicken fingers, and he'll have to tell us how it is.
I draw the line at anything that requires you to kill a baby animal. Other than that, we can go crazy.
All right, I need to send a message to myself to make a $20 tier for the Patreon. But we'll do this. That fine. Well, we will make that happen. That's how the sausage gets made here at the OSMcast.
And Kevin eats it.
Yeah.
But only if you spend $20 a month.
I'll eat anything
Someone's
once.
going to regret this.
I'll eat anything once.
And you have to keep it too, like for at least for a couple of months. Like, there has to be like at least 3 months you have to keep the $20 tier going. And then you can suggest a food for Kevin to eat.
No, just $20 a month. You get once a month. You get to tell Kevin what to eat.
All right. Well, I'll let Kevin
What's
decide
a
this
month?
one. Like
Yeah.
that feels like a lot for Kevin. That seems too much for Kevin. I want
Yeah,
someone to be invested
I don't
into
wanna be,
feeding
like,
Kevin.
on the hook to like every month.
Oh gosh, I would love this. I would love to do this so much. Like, I would happily for $20 a month, have somebody give me something delicious to eat. Like, that sounds great.
No, I'd have to like it.
Anywho, speaking of things Kevin likes, moments of awesome.
It's a moment of awesome.
Yeah.
Moments of awesome are things that we like to talk about, but don't have it quite yet in all of us to do a whole episode about. Kevin, what's your moment of awesome?
Well, my moment of awesome, at least what I want to talk about, is a little game, Solasta, Crown of the Magister, which it really is a little game. It's a small development team called Tactical Adventures, and it is a 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons PC role-playing game. Like, it's not big budget at all. It is definitely, if you compare it to like Baldur's Gate, even in its early access version, the Baldur's Gate 3, it's not that flashy. It's not that pretty. But Solasta has a complete story. 2 is honestly a better adaptation of the 5th edition rule set. It works mechanically. It works better. And it is generally a pretty fun game to play if you're willing to look past it. It's not quite as graphically flashy. They did just recently add an update that put sorcerers as a class in the game, although I don't like sorcerers that well in 5th edition, but hey, some people do. And it generally, you just build a team of 4 heroes, and you can actually build the whole party yourself, which is also a plus. And you go out and, get adventures, you save the kingdom, and, travel around and fight a lot of eagles who randomly attack you as you're trying to make your way across the country. I don't know, I got a string of eagles once. Every encounter was killer eagles. I normally didn't do that, only did it one day. But but it's, not flashy, but it does what it sets out to do pretty well.
Doug, what you got?
Oh, I got Loki.
Okay.
I
We
got
all
Loki.
have Loki in our hearts.
We do. We met, me and Basil were out eating lunch the other day, and we met a guy who looked like another guy that we knew. And we asked him if they knew each other, because they looked so similar that, there could have been, a cousin thing going on that we were unaware of. But he said, oh, is the other guy kind of a trickster? And I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, he kind of is, now that you mention it. He was like, oh, it's because I have that Loki energy in my soul. And I thought that was so neat. Oh, I've also been, wrapping my head around, the mythology of Loki, so there's this theory that is going around about Loki's mythological origins, and one of the big questions about him is, how did people worship him? Because if he's a god that got mentioned, was he actually worshipped, and if so, how? Because we don't have a whole lot of good records about that. The Poetic Edda and the Prose Edda, were both written by that one Icelandic monk who was trying to sell Christianity.
Yeah.
And so he kind of wrote Loki into a very specific role. So it's really a question of, did Loki actually even exist? And we are pretty sure that he did exist, but he's only mentioned on, a couple of, the way people know about Norse mythology, at this point in time, we're having to look back at what do we actually know versus what is kind of sort of made up pop culture myth that has just sort of infected into everything. And from what we can tell, Thor was definitely recognized and worshipped. Tyr was actually recognized and worshipped a lot more than we give him credit for. Like, he should actually have...
Guy.
What's that?
That's why he's the Tuesday guy.
Yeah, he should have a bigger role in the Prose Edda than he does, and it's anyone's guess why he doesn't. And so that boils down to the question of Loki. He's only mentioned in a couple of things. Oh, Odin also. We don't actually have that many instances of Odin being written down. Mostly what we have are other people who observed the Nordic people saying, oh, and they kept shouting out about this Odin guy. Well, I don't know. But he wasn't actually written down as much as Thor and Tyr. And then we get to Loki, who's like only like 2 or 3 times on any surviving statuary is he written down, and it's a real kind of puzzle of, well, why did Loki keep getting invited back to all these parties? And so one of the theories that's going around right now is that he's a hearth god, and that actually makes him make so much more sense.
Like, I like this theory.
I am just so
earlier.
in love with this theory because I keep going through all the various Norse myths that I know and putting that just little bit of information, like, and I want to be very clear, like, he's not a fire god. It would be the god of, like, the hearth, of, like, the stone structure, like, which can get really, really hot, and, you know, and so it makes sense of, well, why is Loki invited to everywhere? Well, because you have to have him. He is there, he works for you, he keeps you safe. Unless you turn your back on him, then he'll burn your whole house down.
Yeah.
Like,
because this would be the time where hearths are made of stone, lit fires are what keep you warm, especially that far up north. But if you're not careful, you'll just burn your house down.
yeah, because, like, embers will stay warm in the soot for a surprising amount of time. Like, you were telling me the other day, Basil, how you started a fire outside and you went outside the next day, outside one night, and you went outside the next day and they were still lit. Like, that happens all the time. And also, they also lived in thatched roof buildings, and the heat from a stone chimney, can set a thatched roof. If it's too dry, it can set a thatched roof on fire, like, without a spark ever coming out of the fireplace. Just the stones getting so hot can be enough to ignite the straw. And I thought that was a really neat revelation.
And it makes a lot of sense because, in this case, also, note to everyone, I don't just light just fires outside and then don't douse them or anything. This was specifically, I was cooking burgers outside out on the grill. And so I left the the coals going in the grill that was contained. The ground below them was heavily, wetted such that, with water and whatnot. So that way, if something happened, it was fine, but it was completely contained. I was just needing the coals to burn themselves out so I could dispose of them. But that's also very similar to how you would deal with embers in a hearth.
Yeah. So it totally makes sense. Like, go through every mythology and just kind of, like, insert that into your understanding of who this figure is, and it completely makes sense. Like,
does that kind of evolve into, like, the trickster of, like, you're never quite sure, you can't 100% trust them because, fire could also be dangerous?
Yes. Like, well, part of the issue is that, like, fire is obviously dangerous, and in the Norse mythology, I can't remember his actual name, but the fire god is very brazenly known to be actively dangerous. Whereas Loki,
like
you kind of think is safe from time to
Surtur
time.
and the fire giants.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which
They're
kind of,
like
I guess, works more for a
fire in your
hearth.
face, bad, semi-controlled fire. he seems harmless, but he's not.
Yeah. Like, you think you've got a handle on it, and you may or you may not.
Yeah.
Just like Lovecraft, Dylan.
Oh, okay. So my moment of awesome is Lovecraft Country. I binged this actually probably several months ago at this point, over the course of like a day. So Lovecraft drew my interest, but what really made me stick with it was the fact that in the first few episodes, like, you can really hear the dice rolling in the background. Like, the setup really feels like a Call of Cthulhu adventure of how these characters get roped in. It's set in the 50s and it's built around a Lovecraftian core, but it does venture into like pulp sci-fi, other horror genres, things like that. And it also makes real world horrors like war, segregation, and racial violence just as dangerous as the supernatural. In doing so, it kind of maps these things over like on top of standard Lovecraftian tropes. So, for example, the lodges and the cults just so happen to be rich white people abusing their power. It also means that the world can be tense without having to constantly power creep the supernatural elements, which is something I'm not really a fan of in a lot of TV shows, especially ones that go multiple seasons. And that normalcy, like the contrast of the supernatural to more normal challenges, also gives enough space for the characters to react to the supernatural experiences that they've had and make the decision of whether they want to run away or whether they want to delve deeper. The characters are all genre savvy. They're aware of the more problematic elements of Lovecraft, so they're kind of primed to dive into this, kind of knowing what they're getting into. It captures some of the more subtle elements of what makes a good Lovecraftian story so terrifying. So, for example, there ends up being a lot of magic, but magic is very much a corrupting force, which is all often depicted with gore or body horror or something really off-putting. And yet pretty much every faction in the show thinks that they can use magic to solve their problems. So it kind of sets up, the temptation there that the characters have to go through, whether they're good guys or whether they're bad guys. I will say there are some caveats. After a first few episodes, it starts to get into like the HBO nudity for the sake of nudity, which your mileage may vary there. If you don't like jump scares or creepy stuff, you probably want to proceed with caution. It's not everywhere, but there's definitely a couple episodes that rely on jump scares. Like there's one where these two little like doll creatures start chasing them around, and it's like weird. Like the effects are really, really creepy. The final episode gets a little hand wavy with mechanics of the characters in the world, but otherwise it's developed pretty well. And it does. The thing I'm not sure about is it really does crank up the power creep in the last couple of episodes to the point where I'm not sure how they can do a season 2 without getting like really far away from the real world, which is what made the show good, in my opinion.
Now, HBO's already announced they're not funding a season 2.
Okay.
Do you feel that if this is just all there is it good on its own?
I think it is. It's there is kind of like a cliffhanger that they set up, and if you kind of ignore that, it's still there's like still a resolution. And like I said, if they had proceeded to a season 2, you would have gotten to it would have left the show in a state where some of the characters are literally, like the human characters now have very strong supernatural or pulp sci-fi elements, and I just don't know what you would do with that without like it turning into Supernatural or something, right? Where the first season it's a bunch of guys doing monster hunting, and then by the end of the show, like,
you have cars in space. That's what you have. You have cars in space. Look, I'm tying this all together between D&D, grand mythology, and things that start off somewhat normal, but then get really out of hand, but still amazing. That's right. We're talking Fast and Furious, F9, the Fast Saga. The latest entry in the hit series of movies starring Van Diesel and all his friends, except for The Rock in this case. They send the car into space, although somewhat spoilers, it's not Van Diesel into space, just the car. Well, there's people in the car, but it's not Van Diesel. So I'm sorry, folks, you're not quite getting the prequel to Riddick you really want, but it's still great. And something that really spurred Ann and I on after we saw F9, we decided we're currently now watching all the Fast and the Furious movies in order. And one of the big things, they start this movie off with this flashback about young Toretto and what happened with his father, what's, spurred him on to do his thing. I had forgotten, because it's been many years, that this entire thing was legit Toretto's backstory in the first Fast and Furious movie, where he explains why he does his street racing the way he does and why he's always sort of against the law because of things that happened to his dad. But what they never talked about was that Van Diesel, his character Dominic Toretto, now has a brother that we didn't know about, played by John Cena.
Are you saying we couldn't see him?
They never mentioned him until this movie. And it's kind of amazing, actually, going through this on how overall pretty well they have actually kept, like, the mythology in line. Like, while it's not like, okay, so it's the Fast and the Furious series is the only long-running cinematic universe that's as well thought through and plotted out at this point as Marvel stuff.
That's maybe more impressive, considering it's probably not entirely intentional.
Well, I would argue that the first couple of movies, it was not. But with the third one, Tokyo Drift, Justin Lin started writing stuff, or directing stuff with a set of writers and composers that also more or less worked on him with most of the other series. And while Justin Lin has not directed every single one, either him or one of the writers has worked on every one. So they've actually kept going. And I also kind of think that Vin Diesel, who is a big D&D nerd, I think he has had more and more say, and by and large it's probably for the betterment of the franchise. I know that his actions, apparently, like, him and The Rock don't, Dwayne Johnson don't get along very well anymore. And that might be because Vin Diesel was really, really he really wanted someone to be the Zenigata to his Lupin. And maybe he pushed Dwayne Johnson a little bit too far to get that done. I don't know, but I would say it's a good time. And now probably a good time to go see it, because probably it's been in theaters for a little bit now, so the theaters are probably empty enough to feel safe enough going. But yeah, no. I enjoyed Fast 9.
What do you think next, Basil? Dinosaurs or giant robots?
Ooh, that's... I mean, I would also point out that there are 2 more movies. In the, quote, main saga. This is not including Dwayne Johnson's The Rock's, as Agent Hobbs, his his side series, that, like, for example, with Hobbs and Shaw that they did, which was also a lot of fun. Installed Idris Elba as this awesome, like, cyborg villain, who was great. So,
I love
they're
the
all...
universe can support that existing in it.
Look, it is, you know, for a long time we had... Oh my gosh, my brain is blanking on the movie franchise I did for a little while, where it was all the old action heroes from days gone past, still kicking ass and taking names.
Expendables?
Expendables, yeah. Yeah, I really feel at this point, the Fast and the Furious has kind of taken that where they will get these awesome, larger-than-life personas, reinterpreting them into the Fast and Furious, you know, the movies as their own awesome, amazing, larger-than-life characters. Like, John Cena, he's pretty much just going through the place going like, hell yeah, I'm John Cena. I'm a badass. Check me out. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'm checking you out, John Cena. Go for it. Like, it's good stuff. It's a really fun ride. Much like our main topic, which also deals with automobiles, but specifically a taxi. One might even call it an odd taxi. We'll be right back. This is the OSMcast.
大量に寄り添ったカーブを曲がればまた暗渠に落ちてこようだ何が見える何が響いてる
This last past anime season was pretty great. I really enjoyed lots of sports anime, and we talked about several shows that we enjoyed at the beginning of this episode, but the one show that really just caught me off guard with just how awesome it was this show called Pui Pui Molcar. No, I mean, that is amazing. But I'm specifically talking about the show we're talking about tonight, which is Odd Taxi. And I
don't watch a lot of anime, honestly, or much of anything, honestly. But you all talking about it was what kind of made me put it on my list. And then when I saw you were trying to schedule the episode about it, I was like, might as well give that a shot now. Yeah, like that's how much of an impact it apparently made.
And it's frankly a very unassuming show at first. Incredibly so. Like, I remember watching the first episode and not quite sure I knew how much I was going to enjoy it until I watched the second episode.
Yeah, I remember watching the first episode and going, okay, so this is like, okay, he drives a taxi, people get into his taxi, they're kind of eccentric, it's odd taxi, okay, I get it. And so it's just kind of a weird little comedy thing, and then the webs of interconnection start growing, you start getting the feeling like everybody has a dark secret.
Yeah, I think I watched the first two episodes at the same time, and that's what really hooked me. And it was kind of weird because after a couple episodes, you start expecting some of that web will be revealed. And it seemed to keep expanding those connections out. And it's intriguing. I honestly was not sure they were going to be able to pull off resolving it.
Doug, what was your first interactions with Odd Taxi?
Well, you showed it to me. I think I had come over to your house and I was just kind of like, hey, show me some stuff, entertain me. And you put it on and it was pretty cool. But honestly, we've watched several anime lately that have been about like animal people, and they always seem to focus on the animal people now have to deal with the complexity of being both an animal and a human, and what does that mean? What does it mean? And that had kind of, that meant that I was kind of instantly turned off by the animal people, because, you know, I've seen anime do that exact storyline like twice already. And in one instance they did it very well, in the other instance it was animated better, but the story wasn't done as well. I'll let you figure out which one is which.
Spoilers, Beastar Season 2 is now on Netflix, and I can't wait to try to watch it.
I think the first couple episodes so far are pretty good.
Yeah, Beastars is really good.
I guess we should say, in case it's not entirely clear, ODDTAXI is a show where it's a world where everyone appears to be anthropomorphic animals.
Yeah. And so Barry did not want to watch it because he thought it was going to be a cutesy animal show. I was weary of it because I've already seen this. I thought I had already seen this storyline twice already. But I was wrong. It was only as Basil was just going up and down, like running around, like proclaiming its greatness, that I was finally like, okay, I guess I need to see what Basil's talking about. He normally doesn't make this much of a fuss over something unless it's really good. And he was correct. I feel like the story is a little slow moving to get up off its feet, so you really need to give it maybe 4 episodes instead of like, if you're used to only giving a show like 2 episodes to catch your attention, you need to give it like 3 or 4, because it does eventually pick up. And then it becomes this super fascinating drama where I think, was it Kevin or Dylan who said that it's like somebody's got everybody has a dark secret going on, and so now you're just trying to figure out, like, well, whose secret is the darkest, and what does this person actually have going on? Because all the characters are these really deep characters.
It has a pretty big cast, and they all have their own thing going on at the same time. And how they all interact with each other is a lot of the story.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say that the secrets are necessarily dark. It's very much like going into a small town or something where everyone's kind of connected in some way. And, you know, I also think... Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was like, you're right. It feels like it's like we're talking probably like a prefecture in Tokyo or something where the world is big, but in reality, the relationships are much more interconnected than you would normally think. Like, for example, Doug's sister is a tattoo artist, and I discovered that one of my old coworkers has gotten several tattoos from her. And that was a connection I never thought I would see until one day on Facebook. My once a month I go see what's going down on Facebook, and I suddenly see them talking to each other. I'm like, how are they talking to each other? And then somewhere else where someone will talk to someone, like, yeah, you know, this person. I'm like, wait, how do you know that person? Oh, this one. And you realize that your world, while huge, is also much smaller than you realize. And this show really, really captures that feeling very well.
I think it also, what it does really well with that is it doesn't invest these connections with a lot of importance, or I don't know the right word to use, secrecy maybe. Like, there are obviously these connections. You want to find out what they are, but it's not like, you know, it's this burning secret. It's just like, oh, that's interesting that those two people are connected, or that those people know each other in this way, or this just so happened to coincidentally happen. Whereas I think a lot of shows might try to invest more in those connections and like oversell them, like oversell the mystery.
And I think one of the biggest benefits this show has is that they planned ahead for everything. Unlike most shows where, for example, they will make the show every week. And that's including like writing, even though they might have a lot of pre-production, once everything starts, when the rubber meets the road, they got to start actually making the show. It's happening every week. And sometimes productions can break down, and suddenly that's when you sometimes will get like clip shows, recapping thing, or they might have to take a break in between weeks. ODDTAXI, they actually recorded all the audio, which means they've already written the story out before the animation process even began. So,
which is actually kind of unusual for anime.
Yeah, it's super unusual. And that was just a case of, how they wanted to make the show work. And it's actually it's a very good puzzle where they've actually figured out all the pieces. And so everything actually, gets placed and fits in at the right time.
Yeah, they don't just forget that they spun up this mystery box over here because it seemed like it would be cool and then forgot about it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of elements. We've got our taxi driver who feels like he's got some dark secret. There's a missing girl. There's a group of idol singers. There's a guy who's really obsessed with his gacha game. There's
some Yakuza over there.
A YouTuber, a couple of comedians, a guy who just really wants a girlfriend real bad, doctor, the nurse, they all have their own thing going on. And how they all tie into each other is really what it's all about.
And what I found really interesting was not only, the show's really good, but also the sort of the creation of the show is interesting. It's a co-production between a creative company called Pix and the animation studio OLM. Now, OLM, you've known anime they make because they make all the Pokemon anime. As well as things like Yokai Watch and Card Fight Vanguard. All the level 5 anime. Again, also like Inazuma 11. They make stuff that the art style of all these cutesy animals, they were perfect to make this happen. But the director was on the side of Pix. It's this, I say new, but new to anime for us, Baku Kinoshita, who normally, Pix does all sorts of things, but primarily things like commercials or like music videos. They've also produced things like dramas and films. And so he was the animation director and character designer, and he kind of, sketched out the general idea he wanted for the show, and then went to this person named Kazuya Konomoto, who had written Black School Rules, which is a J-drama, as well as Seto and Utsumi, which is a manga, and they sort of collaborated to create the story. And it's just, the way they made it worked really, really well. I did find it also interesting that apparently they actually started with the character designs.
Mm-hmm.
And then he handed it to the writer, who then started working with stuff. And the loose idea was an individual taxi driver. But, of course, the mangaka, really, really fleshed things out. So it just, it's fun stuff. And also sometimes not so fun stuff. Like this, the show also did this really good job of more or less every episode ending on a cliffhanger of some form. And some were like, oh, okay. And other times were like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it had some... Go ahead. Sorry.
Just say this isn't a show when you first start it that expects you to occasionally leave you with, feelings of, oh no, they're in danger.
Yeah, some of the elements are really dark. And I would not have expected that from the beginning, but it never, it doesn't linger there too long, and it doesn't kind of revel in them. It's just, this is an element that has to exist to advance this plot. here it is. And I think it manages to navigate them better than, a lot of shows might for that reason.
Also, Odokawa, our main taxi driver, is 41. And as a person who is also 41, that really struck me as important.
Was he 41? Because I could never quite tell how old he was. Not just because he was a walrus, but because, like, he talks in one thing about how somebody else, like, looks a lot older than they are, and the conversation kind of makes you think that he's a little bit younger than I think I was assuming he was, but then you just said he's in his 40s, and so I'm confused, because going, no, that's about how old I thought he was. What's going on?
No, they do, in this show, both him and his monkey friend, who really wants a girlfriend, they are both 41.
Oh.
They established that pretty early on. But also, Anime News Network actually had a really good interview with Baku Kinoshita. And they actually asked him about that because he's also voice acted by Natsuki Hane, who is also Tanjiro from Demon Slayer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
playing against type.
And they actually asked him about that. And the director was like, well, Odokawa is the kind of character who became an adult while dragging along his childish heart. To be frank, I didn't want to make him the typical middle-aged guy with a gruff and austere attitude. I wanted to express his internal youth and purity of his heart. Hanane's Odokawa portrays him as a middle-aged guy while he's also bringing out his cool and collected side. He may have a cold side, but he makes witty retorts in his conversations, bringing out his youth. He's not an older guy who's given up on various aspects of his life. I feel that this Odokawa has energy and vigor and depths of Hayane's voice. I really like how much that suits Odokawa. And he's correct.
Well, one of the things that struck me as I was watching it is I kept vaguely recognizing people's voices as they were talking. And so while I was watching it, I would go and I would look up, okay, now who is this voice actor? Now who is this voice actor? Okay, now who plays this character?
Mm-hmm.
And that comment that Kevin made about playing off type is pretty much universal throughout the cast. Like, you go through this list of voice actors and everybody's very prolific, but everybody has kind of a type, and they're playing a character that's not necessarily the opposite of that type, but is maybe a step to the side of what you would expect from that type. Does that make any sense?
Kinda.
Like, it felt like all of the actors were stretching their legs a little bit. Like a lot of the actors, they get pigeonholed as playing this one particular type, but they actually have a much broader range, and this was a demonstration where they could show that much broader range.
It's like, this is a certain kind of character. Now, normally we would go get this voice actor for this role, but let's get this other voice actor, who's also really good, but doesn't usually play these sort of roles.
Yeah, and that's more or less what kept happening to me. I kept going, oh, I know that voice, I know who that is, and then I would go look it up, and I would be wrong. It would not be the guy I thought it was, it would be somebody else. And it's not that I'm bad at picking out voice actors' voices, it's that they were actively going outside their boundaries a little bit. I don't know if that was an intentional decision on the casting parts, but it seems like it's an intentional decision that the voice actors all collectively made, and it really works out for the best. It really works out for the better. Like, everybody brings a real good life to their character's voice in a way that I think they wouldn't have been able to if this was the kind of character that they traditionally play.
That said, they did get, for the most Yakuza character in the show, the guy that voice acts him is the voice of Kazuma Kiryu from Yakuza. So
I guess they didn't branch out that. Well, that's not one of the guys I looked up.
But I would also point out that, the ending theme is also done by Suzuko Mimori, who was Umi Sonoda in Love Live and Hikari Kagura in Review Starlight. So she is very much, they got an idol singer to be the idol, but this is a show where everyone's got more depth to them than you would realize at first glance, and the idol group Mystery Kiss is very central to the plot of this show, and you also see sides of idols that, frankly, you don't get to see normally. So, even in things where you feel that people might be typecast, there are still levels and depths they get to still expand on that you would not get in a normal show.
Man, I would love to see something like Love Live take the spoiler plot twist that this show has. That would fry the fans' brains.
But I'd also say, I think the music for this series was also incredibly good.
Yeah, that's pretty good music.
Yeah.
I
I have to agree. I thought it was intentionally easygoing and relaxed, and I didn't notice it in a lot of places. And I guess it's one of those things where if you're not noticing the music, that means the music is probably doing its job.
I also enjoyed the fact that the opening was also written by the folks that made the music for the show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was nice. So the folks that really worked on stuff was someone called MSB. And let me tell you, trying to do a search for MSB in music, there are a lot of people that have used the initials MSB. I am not still quite sure who did it, but also Punpi, who is a very prolific musician in Japan, as well as Vava, who, as far as I can tell, is a Chinese rapper. I also know that DJ Punpi, as well as a singer-songwriter known as Skirt, but I also realized their name is actually Wataru Sawabe, who also worked on compositions for Ongaku R Sound, which is a recent anime movie. They're the two, Skirt and Punpi, also did the opening song, which is very cool, very chillax. I also highly recommend going on YouTube and finding the actual music video, where it's pretty much them chilling out in Otokawa's taxi while they're singing the song.
Man, I will say also the opening, it sets it up really well. Like you're saying, it's kind of this chill with some of the like it hits the saxophone at the end, like you'd hear in like an 80s or 90s hard-boiled movie theme. But also every scene ties back to a character or something in the show.
Yes.
And so the more of the show you watch, the more of the opening you understand.
Yes, and that's always a very good component of a show.
Yeah, because, there were things when I was doing my rewatch by inflicting the show upon Anna and Doug and whatnot. I was watching the opening and went like, no. Oh, no. No.
Yep, it's in the very first opening.
In
the opening, right from the beginning. You
like
didn't even know.
This show is so well built. This show is the kind of show that will spoil you for other shows. In that you'll be going, why wasn't this other show as good as Odd Taxi? So you may go, well, but then why do I want to watch this show if it's so good? But you want to watch the show because it's so good. And
I think it's also a show that is more about the journey. Like, if I just told you everything that happened in the show, it would not be interesting. But experiencing that, getting laid out piece at a time, and the pacing is really good, is the point of watching it. Like, that experience.
Like the experience of being in a taxi with a really good, interesting taxi driver.
Sort of.
Well, I'm thinking to myself, through times we're taking an Uber, and sometimes you'll just get someone who will get you there. But other times you'll get just the perfect quintessential taxi driver who will make just the right amount of small talk and have just the right things to say that you're like, man, I know I took a taxi, but instead I've gotten an experience.
You guys have had more experience with like Ubers and taxis than I have, I think, because my preferred amount of small talk in any sort of transit is none.
Which is funny, because that's the same thing as what Otakawa has.
No, that tracks. That tracks.
Well, I have definitely had a couple of Uber and or taxi experiences that were kind of like that. I've also had a couple that were like, oh god, I just want this to be over. But apparently this guy can't even follow my directions of where I want to go.
But speaking on keeping this on the road, are there any other more general, more, the spoiler-free comments we want to make, or do we want to cruise on into the spoilers lane?
All the animals are cute. It's not really a comment on the quality of the show. I guess it's a comment on the quality of the show in one way, but like everyone's adorable little animal people.
They are adorable little animal people.
The design is very charming. It's not the most hyper detailed anime by any means, but all the designs are very charming, and the animation does exactly what it intends to.
Yeah, no, this isn't the most, oh my god, this is the most well-animated thing ever, but it's never badly animated, and it works really well for the story that it's telling.
Yeah, I feel like as far as the animation goes, I feel like this show, part of the reason of why it's being such a critical darling right now is because it sort of took a step back and then to the side of where modern animation is at the moment. Like, I'm going to bring up Vivi. Vivi is beautifully animated. But you can tell that they were pretty much straining themselves for every episode to make it. And, there are a bunch of other anime where it's the exact same thing. The animation department is clearly straining themselves to the point that the story is suffering. And I thought part of the reason that we got interested in anime in the first place was because it had such good writing, it had such good stories, such good characters, and the animation also tended to be beautiful, but it seems like we've kind of been falling down this beautiful animation hole for a little while. And so while Odd Taxi isn't the most beautiful animation ever, it's still good animation the whole way through. It never suffers for how it's animated. Nobody ever goes off model. There's plenty of stretch and squish, and everything moves steadily. And then the story was great, and that's partially because it wrote itself opposite of the way that a lot of anime have been doing, where they pretty much have started animating it while they're still writing the storyline, and if the story comes together, that's great or not, rather than having a fully self-contained story and then pitching that story. Does that make any sense?
It does. I really do wonder if this particular aspect came from the fact that, our director came from Pix, and not just your traditional animation studio, that he partnered with an anime studio to make it happen. And I kind of wonder if it's that partnership that inadvertently created what Odd Taxi is. And in itself is, this odd combination, but still created this good show. All right. And with that, we're going to take a quick break, but come right back around because we get into some spoilers, and oh boy, does this show have them. This is the OSMcast. Thank God it was just a cat.
Yeah.
I don't know with the spoilers to start with the straight up murder or the or our protagonist's unique mental condition.
Oh man, there's just so many places to start. I do want to say about the cat two things. One, it's literally in the very first scene of the opening that he's encountering a cat.
Yeah, and it's that same black cat too. Like it's just
how is it not obvious? And the second thing is I feel like that is the show's most like that's the mystery that's like, come on, that's
But-
that's too easy.
but that's also the mystery that even Otokawa's not quite sure about.
Yeah.
Because he's
that
the one
is
that goes,
true.
"Oh God, it was just a cat. Oh, thank God."
Yeah.
Because in this entire show, you think the character that got murdered was this young black cat girl. And so even he's like, well, I know I didn't do it, but I'm interacting with this black cat on a daily basis.
Yeah. And it also keeps everyone else because tied into thinking that it's him, because that's one of the pieces of evidence is he's been heard talking to this other person, and he supposedly lives alone.
There's just enough about him that's slightly off that you have to go, did he just straight up kidnap a girl and is keeping her in his house?
I never read it that way. I always read it as like, if my first
ran
assumption
away?
was what?
Or that, like, she ran away and he's hiding her?
That was my first assumption, is like, okay, she ran away and she's hiding out there so she doesn't have to go back. And obviously they don't tie it to Mystery Kiss early on because that would give away too much. And like, I assumed there was an innocent explanation, but I this was even more innocent than what I thought.
Yeah. I was seeing a possible route where the guy who's kind of our protagonist turned out to be the actual villain of the story.
I could see where you would think that, because once he realizes that he's too deep into this plot and just like, okay, I'm gonna have to deal with this, he does start making those sorts of moves.
He does have a ruthlessness to him at points that you don't expect right away.
Yeah.
Because he is super traumatized.
He is.
He is
He's
so
traumatized.
Like, I feel like the biggest and baddest spoiler of all is they're not animal people.
They're not
They're
animal
not
people.
Animal people at all.
They're not animal people.
I did appreciate the way they revealed that, though. Like, they had built up some, the journal and all that, and I thought, like, there was going to be this deep, multi-layered thing where, like, this is all a dream, and it's actually a very thin layer, like, across the top of the story, right? Like, it's not this big secret. And also, when they tie that into, like, well, his parents died and he was taken to this orphanage, and the person who manages that foundation is this other person, the person who's tied in with all the organized crime. Like, it just happened to be a guy who does organized crime and he has all this money, so he operates a charity, and those two things are not connected.
The weirdest thing is, I actually once read an interview about, like, it was a guy who got actual Yakuza to play one of the Yakuza games and talk about how accurate it was to Yakuza. And it's one where Kiryu has, like, this orphanage of kids, and one of the Yakuza guys was actually like, yeah, I knew a guy who did that once. It was, like, totally a tax dodge. It was totally a tax dodge, but he was real good to those kids anyways.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, the fact that someone is involved in both isn't necessarily weird, and it doesn't necessarily mean the two things have to be tied together, right? Like,
Yeah.
that one is part of the other, and there's this deep mystery. It's just like, oh, he was traumatized and he had this experience.
And I really enjoyed it. Also tied into the fact that, poor Odokawa, he's now also lost like his one actual superpower, which is that he could recognize anybody.
Yeah, because everybody appears as a different animal to him. So it's like, oh, I saw a lemur the other day. You don't see a lot of those going around.
Because everyone's talking about no, if Odokawa saw it, Odokawa saw them. Like, he doesn't forget a face. Like, and everyone's like, it's kind of weird though, actually, right? And I think that and his hard time sleeping and the fact that one of his close friends is his local doctor. And it's sort of his journey going, he's like, I know there's something screwed up with my friend. I'm going to figure out what.
Yeah.
Also, what a nice doctor, because also Alpaca Capoeira nurse lady gets her job back without any worries whatsoever.
Yep. What a nice doctor.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. There are circumstances, but still, there's a... Dr. Guy is nice. The Dr. Guy is super nice.
In some ways, I like that about the show, is it's not trying to be gritty and, she fell into organized crime and, he's ruined because, he provided her the pills, basically, or, gave her the opportunity to do this. And it's like, oh, right. She fell in with a criminal. He's the bad guy. He's in jail. Everything just wraps up neatly.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit concerned about how casually it seems like a lot of anime seems to be going, oh, and this character has Yakuza associations, like you do, and then just moves on. Like, that's not how things are in Japan, and I'm a little bit worried about that trend, but oh well.
Yeah,
come on. Everyone in Japan is involved in the Yakuza somehow.
No. But they're not.
Right, I guess in the real world, the idea would be, once you cross that line, it's hard to... You can't uncross it.
Yeah.
I suspect with certain jobs within certain sectors and certain parts of Japan would really ratchet up the possibility, but still, yeah.
But, again, I like that this story isn't... it's not trying to be realistic in that sense. It's... It gives this nice, clean resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Once everything has been revealed.
Yes. I also think a lot about the story is kind of how surprisingly interconnected the cast is. They have a lot of surprising connections that come up in the story.
It's a little bit like a heist, story when you get down to it, only there's no actual heist. Well, wait, there is an actual heist.
There is an actual heist.
Oh my gosh, it's a heist story! It's just a heist story, guys!
I've kind of pitched it as like a Coen Brothers movie, but anime.
Yeah, that's it. That's the perfect description.
For the quirkiness and interconnectivity of the characters.
Yeah. They're just a lot, a lot of characters who don't seem interconnected actually are. A heist is involved, but it's not the central plot point.
Well, kind of like the mysteries, though, it uses a very light touch on the connections. It's not like once everything's revealed, everything's super close. Like, oh my gosh, the Stormtroopers, they're Boba Fett. This tiny, tiny universe. It's like, yeah, you can draw some dotted lines between these people, but they're not.
Well, include like the local comedy act,
Homo
Sapiens, which was just chef's kiss once you realize that, because I was thinking why is the comedy duo is humans, but it's animal people. Wait, but it makes way more sense now, and I also liked how they actually partnered with Yoshimoto Kogyo, which is an actual entertainment production company that employs a large majority of all the various Japanese comedy acts. And so they got actual comedians to voice the comedy duo, their Manzai Combi act, and how one of them is just, he works a side job at a host club, you know, just as like a busboy or something.
Because comedy don't pay the bills.
You know, and then his friend, his foil, who is literally Mr. Peanut Butter. Who is...
He's not literally Mr. Peanut Butter.
But he's just someone who is just so naturally affable, and just you're just watching him just on TV that he starts getting all these other gigs.
Yeah.
Like, he is literally doing the job, and he was getting the kind of gigs that Mr. Peanut Butter and BoJack Horseman got. Like, but they're both him and his partner are really conflicted about how their comedy duo just isn't working out. Even though they both have known each other since high school, and they've really wanted to work out, but it's just not.
Yeah, and also, like, I like the fact that they're definitely going different directions, because I feel like that's a normal thing with duos like that. Like, there's gonna be some tension if one is more popular or perceived as the more talented of the two. I feel like you hear that story a lot.
Yeah, you do. And I think it's going... I liked how that storyline played out, too. I do hope that the fall guy in the comedy act, he does end up partnering with, like, the teenage kid. Like, I feel that would be good for them. Both.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I think, in reality, that would kind of be the way to resolve that. Like, there's not always this resentment brewing.
Yeah.
I also liked the discovery that all it takes is one bad gotcha pull, and anybody can become the Joker.
No, that guy was already on his way to becoming the Joker, and that one bad gotcha pull just happened to be the thing that pushed him over the edge. But he was always headed in that direction. He was headed in that direction when he spent the $10,000 on a goddamn eraser.
To be
That
fair,
is true.
The plot of The Killing Joke is, in fact, that the Joker was always on his way to being the Joker, and it's not just one bad day could turn anybody into the Joker. Although I don't think the animated adaptation of that quite got that, but that's beside the point. But
I forgot.
that did get me to swear off Gotcha Games forever, though.
Oh, that's what did it?
That's what did it.
Ah.
I saw some of myself in this guy, and maybe not everything. Like, I'm not one bad gotcha pull away from, flipping out, but I'm like, it resonates a little too closely.
Yeah.
Well, I feel bad for you, Kevin, because I resonated with that character not at all. Like, I was just like, you are an idiot, and you're doing an idiot thing, and you need to stop. You need to reform your life.
That was my thought, too, and I'm like, oh, wait.
Well, but I kind of forgot how much they set him up, because towards the end, he's kind of treated as this force of nature who just shows up and does stuff. Whereas, like, he's not necessarily a bad guy, he's an addict.
Yeah.
And he doesn't intend to become an addict like most addicts. He just does, and,
He's like, in the story, the Tempest. He's the Tempest. Like, he's an event that shows up, and it's bad news.
Although I think it's kind of good to have that character out there, because honestly, like, loot box addiction is a thing, and it's like we could use a little more depiction of that in media, because people need to be aware of it.
Yeah, I mean, I do appreciate that. Like I said, I forgot there was a whole episode devoted to him and how he got there, and it's good in that, like, he's terrifying, but also you kind of feel bad for him to some extent.
He also got off scot-free. I don't feel bad for him. He got off scot-free in the end. In the end, he goes back. He, like, calms the fuck down and gets like, a job somewhere else. And and nothing bad happens to him, even though he, like, shoots a guy
Oh.
twice.
That's true. Like, I mean, he's... But,
like,
he
he
hits rock
actively
bottom.
does the most illegal stuff out of anybody in the whole show, and he gets away, like, completely clean slate. Like,
Yeah, I mean, maybe not the most illegal. It's a toss-up, but yeah, he's
maybe
extremely...
not the most illegal.
So my thing is, though, I really do like how the show really delves into things that you don't get to see delved into shows like this. Again, like the darker, more addict side of Gacha. I would also point out, Kabasawa and his just crippling need for social media validation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how he's got to go back to college.
Yeah.
After all that crap he pulled.
Yeah,
And
I saw
how
a
is-
lot of elements of him for, like, the griftery side of YouTube.
mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like I may have been him at one point. Not, like, with the YouTube, but, internet famous, and now has to go be a normal person.
There's just... all these characters have something to them. And again, it's just showing off different sides of things that you would not normally see in just any old show.
I liked the Fox guy. I felt like the show was better every time the Fox guy was on screen.
Like the manager of the...
Yeah, the
The
manager
mystery
of the
cast?
idol group.
Was he a fox?
Yes, he was. Yeah, I looked up in the list.
Okay.
He could
There are
have been a
few-
fox, or he could have been a Shiba Inu. Like, he is some sort of canid.
Yeah.
And he was
Oh,
orange,
God.
and he had those kinds of markings.
And the weird porcupine crime guy.
Yano!
Constantly, like, street rapping.
Ugh, I hated him.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of him either.
Like, I thought about how I would react to him if I bumped into him and he started rapping at me. Like, I would not be okay with it.
I was more like, it's going to take him so long to get to the point because he has to make all these rhymes.
Yeah.
I've known some folks in my life who are so good at freestyle rap that if you have the talent for it, it really just comes naturally to you.
Ugh.
On the other hand, you don't want to have to deal with them for exposition purposes.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But man, props to the localization team on still making sure that the subtitles still rhymed and
Yes,
it sounded
I
lyrical
noticed
too.
That I noticed both they made the subtitles rhyme while he himself was actually rhyming all his lines in the Japanese.
Yeah, I had some moments where I'm like, they had to make up something different for that subtitle, right? And just because it was so good, so well done.
A little bit, but they were, best I could tell, they were getting the point across.
Ugh.
But we
I
haven't
just
even
hate it so
mentioned
much.
that we haven't even mentioned that a up and coming idol singer is straight up murdered in the backstory of the show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. One of the kitty girls is a complete psychopath.
Yup.
Who only really cared about fame and fried chicken.
Yep.
Like, and when you go back and watch, you realize that she really was like, well, each of the idols had their own deal. Like, there was the one girl who was stuck being, part of the grift to trick men into losing all their money. Or the actual idol that, thought she was going to get framed for this murder. And so suddenly everything had to change. And now she feels like she's part of this seedy underbelly thing that she wasn't ready to be. But she sort of resigned herself to. And then, the sweet, innocent girl they had to fill in the spot. Oh, she just likes fried chicken. He. Oh, God.
Yeah.
And just the way she was so casually talking about it to her mom as
Yeah.
they just show her doing it. And then that final moment, because again, this show, every episode ends on a cliffhanger. As she gets into Odokawa's taxi.
She's also like, hey, maybe I'll kill the other one and be a solo act. Like,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Yeah, she's a straight up little baby serial killer. You know? It's like...
Yeah. Although, one thing I really loved about that whole plot was, again, the light touch that this anime uses. So I think with the temptation that a lot of shows might have is to kind of turn this into a big fantastic conspiracy theory where everyone who was trying to cover up was obviously in on it, right? And there were all these connections. Whereas I feel like the way they did it is more realistic, where the one person, Sakura, kills Yuki, doesn't set anything up, doesn't plan it, just drops her where the other members of the idol group will find her. They find her. They don't have time to start asking who did this, whatever. It's like, oh crap, this happened, and if we don't cover it up,
they're going to blame us.
Yeah, like everything we worked for is gone. So now we're suddenly complicit, even though no one had to arrange that. They just, like, the strategic move for them was to make themselves complicit in it.
Also, now we're stuck working with criminals because we had to get involved with them to make the body disappear.
Yes, it's just like, such a light touch. It doesn't, like, it sets up this mystery, but it doesn't try to create too deep a mystery. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's just like, hey, here's this plot point, we're moving on.
Dylan, I highly recommend playing the game Judgment. It's by the studio that makes the Yakuza games. It's about a detective dealing with Yakuza crimes, and a very similar situation plays out in the game. It's also extremely well plotted. It's very, very good. I'm highly looking forward to the sequel, and god damn you, Johnny Associates, if you ruin the series for me. Questions from folks like the internet folks like you, where people have asked questions, and we are going to answer them. So yes, we are talking about questions from internet listeners like you, listeners like Jess from MomoCon. Did you know there was an accompanying Twitter account set up last year that has episode as it corresponds? And also they did a radio drama with extra crazy Easter eggs? And the answer was yes, actually. So apparently, I haven't found it, but ODDTAXI had a YouTube channel where they had audio recordings of characters being in Odokawa's taxi as stuff was going on. And the character Kawabasa, they actually set up his own Twitter account for him.
Oh, wow.
So as the episodes were going up, he was tweeting.
Oh, cool.
Starting off with his tweet from him taking the selfie with Odokawa on up until the point where he surrendered to Dobu and gave up all his clout. So, yeah, like...
the show can do something like that effectively.
Yeah. It's kind of...
Sarah's and Mai did it.
Yeah, it did.
Carol on Tuesday had their own Instagram account while the show was running, and they'd post, like, pictures every week that was, like, actually from perspective, like, it was like a photograph like you take on Instagram, but it was done by one of the characters in the show, kind of perspective.
Cool. Cool.
But it's nice when you can do that, and it gives a little more level of immersion. I admittedly found out about this like a day or two ago.
No, I really enjoy like that aspect of some of these shows are just really thought out, planned ahead, and they can do neat stuff like that. Austin at Bebop Shock That's Bebop, like Cowboy Bebop, and Shock, like, you was Shock! Do you think
I'm
the
looking
series...
forward to that Fist of the North Star musical in Japan. I'll probably never get to see it, but it's happening.
Do you think the series benefits from or is hampered by the choice to make all the characters animals? In parentheses, I haven't finished the series, but I gather that their animalness is merely aesthetic choice, unlike Beastars, BNA, etc.
I guess if you've come through the spoiler section, you don't need a warning here.
Okay, so as I was watching,
would be what it was without the conceit of the animal people.
Admittedly, one of the reasons, like, Basil knows that I actually enjoy spoilers, so he went ahead and gave me that spoiler as I was complaining about, I kind of don't want to watch another animal show. He was like, they're not really animals. And so I went back and I said, okay, well, let me try giving it a shot. But I didn't tell Barry, because Barry doesn't like spoilers. So, like, I was watching it, and every time, like, I would notice stuff. Like, they tended to gloss over the fact that they were all animal people. Like, nobody ever mentions it except, and I started paying attention, only our main character actually ever acknowledges it, and the one time he says anything about it in front of somebody, it's the fox guy, and he just kind of gives him, like, a funny look. Like, you just said something super weird, but I'm way too involved in something else to address it.
Is that the one where he's driving and like, oh, a calico cat? And they're like, what?
Yeah.
Where he just is dead ass stares at him and blinks, and he's like, doesn't even say anything. He just stares at the guy. I'm like, and they just move on.
There's also a thing where the doctor asks him, "What do I look like to you?" And he says, "A gorilla," and they like laugh like it's a joke. Like, I mean, when you see what they look like as humans, he's a guy who kind of looks like a gorilla. So you could get why people would make that joke about him.
Yeah.
But at the time, it's like, yeah, he's a gorilla.
And so
I think there are actually two benefits to the choice. One is getting into it. I think it helps. What?
It helped me keep track of who all the characters were, because everybody has these super mundane, realistic names. And there's no way I would have been able to keep everybody straight if they all had the same face, like is the problem in a lot of anime.
Yeah. But I think on top of that, it kind of takes away some context. Like, if I can describe the show as, it's about this walrus who's a taxi driver, and like I feel like that kind of obscures the mystery until you're kind of ready to get into it. Whereas if I'd started out like, oh yeah, it's about this guy, he's a taxi driver, it kind of turns into this like hard-boiled, noir mystery. Like, it gives you too much context, and you're ready for what comes next. But also, I think at the end, what I really like is the moment he wakes up and you see people as they really are, is the moment the show has pretty much revealed all of its mysteries, except for maybe one. And so you, as the viewer, kind of get to go through that with him of like, okay, I see the world as it actually is now. Like, the illusion's kind of dissipated. It's also really nice to have that moment of, okay, now I want to see what everyone actually looks like.
Yeah.
Before we move on, so they actually asked this question to the director in the Anime News Network thing, and the director mentioned that apparently for the initial pitch document stage, they wanted to make it about animals. They want to tell a realistic story about the human condition, but with cute animal visuals. If a heavy story has a cute-looking surface, it mitigates the feeling of gloominess and expands the scope of the story. We had confidence that the dissonance brought out by the contrast would be compelling.
Yeah, like I said,
and I really think that really speaks to Dylan's, talk about it having a light touch.
Yeah, if you told me it was a mystery and it was just humans, I'd be like, I don't like those. really care about those types of shows, but I feel like this is it feels like less of a commitment to get into.
There's something easier about watching a guy leave a guy to maybe bleed out, maybe get rescued. That's easier to take when one of them's a walrus and one of them's a monkey.
Yes.
So Tobias at Reverend_Tobias asks, how did you feel about the final reveal? Do you think Sakura killed our good walrus boy? Or do you think Odokawa comes out unscathed?
I think he comes out unscathed. I think she probably didn't notice the taxi driver. And I think he's still safe for now. But only for now.
She does say something like, I've got this one thing I've got to do or something. I've got to find the taxi driver or something. So I think they kind of set that up. I think you could also read that as like she's trying to get on the dash cam for some other reason, like as an alibi.
I have the thought that now that he seems to be seeing people as normal, maybe that now he'll not even recognize her until go, oh, he doesn't remember me at all. I don't have to do anything.
Or he's already talked to the police about her, because he mentions in the hospital he figures out who it was. And he wants, for example, he was talking to, awesome capoeira girlfriend and his and doctor buddy, that he almost tells them who it is. And he pauses and goes, no, I need to go tell the police. So there is an equally good chance that Odokawa tends to do what he says he's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he probably talked to the police, and if nothing else, awesome capoeira girlfriend probably saves his butt anyways.
Yeah, I think you could set it up as, I feel like it becomes a fight and possibly she kills him, but also I like the way everything resolves, and I just don't want to think that's what happened, so I choose not to.
It's the open ending. It's, presumably everyone's life continues on, and it leaves you one last thing to wonder about, how did that last encounter turn?
Tobias's next question is, which of the character stories did you personally find the most relatable and why?
Ooh, we kind of touched on this a little bit already.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like the manager had the most relatable story.
The manager of Mystery Kiss?
Yes.
I don't remember exactly in what way.
Well, I mean, he's got one of these girls who's obviously like a real star, and she's got real talent, and he's going to do what he can to help that, but he's gotten involved in some shit, and he's got to do the backbreaking work.
That's right. He did kind of I just want the girls to be okay at one point. I forgot about that.
Yeah. I was totally down into his story.
Thank God for Anna, so I don't have to be crazy monkey boy.
I can be crazy monkey boy. No.
No one wants to be crazy monkey boy.
No one wants to be crazy monkey boy. I've been crazy monkey boy.
I mean, is that your
time
answer?
Passed, and I'm more comfortable with my own skin now. But
I mean, is that your answer, or do you have someone else?
Well, that's not my real answer, and I know you want to say the gotcha guy, although that had an impact on me. But I actually do sort of relate to the comedian guy who's just he feels like something should be happening, but nothing seems to be happening for him.
Yeah. I get that a lot. Honestly, just the aspect of Odokawa as a taxi driver. I work at a retail store. I get people from all walks of life coming in every day.
Mm-hmm.
That also his just, maybe not all the crazy noir, hard-boiled stuff that happens, but when people are just getting into the taxi and wanting small talk, regardless whether you're feeling like small talk, there's a lot of both those characters that I relate to.
I don't know.
I get
Like,
a lot of that from the retail angle, and yeah, kind of got to be on stage, whether you want to or not sometimes.
yeah, Odokawa, like, really felt relatable to me, partially because, like, they make a point of, like, yeah, he's shy, he has a hard time looking at people, and, like, he doesn't seem like that, but he's definitely, like, if you think about it, you definitely see how introverted he is and how shy he is.
And yeah, maybe it's saying more about myself when I say this, but I felt he had just a little bit of a autistic vibe.
I did too. Yeah,
like a little bit on the spectrum somewhere.
Well, the not looking into people's eyes definitely, like, tripped that off. Like, are they going for this? Not really, but kind of.
Sometimes overly literal interpretation of things, and
yeah, I think he also, but aside from just the personality, I think he also has this sense of, like once he finds himself wrapped up in this, he's like, okay, this is the way it is. Let's figure out how to do this. Let's deal with this. And he's not, like, all the bad stuff he faces, he kind of has that attitude of, like, let's just deal with it, instead of being the typical anime protagonist who's, like, wringing his hands over it. And I very much feel that, because I feel like that's what I would do if I was in that position. Like, oh, well, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I guess we have to deal with this.
All right, so Tobias's next question, where he totally took a couple of questions I posited towards the Third Impact folks, he completely turned it around on me. So here we go. ODDTAXI has received a lot of hype, especially as it came out of nowhere. Do you think this hype is deserved, or is this going to be forgotten about in a year?
My answer is both. Yes, all this hype is deserved, but we are going to forget about it in a year.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it kind of has the same appeal that, like, a Cowboy Bebop would, where it wraps up very, very cleanly. Like, it's one series and then you're done. And also, it's the type of thing that you could recommend to someone who doesn't necessarily get anime. Like, you don't have to put any caveats around it. You don't have to explain, like, yeah, it has this weird trope or that weird trope. So it's going to live on in that way, but also, like, there's been lots of Cowboy Bebops since Cowboy Bebop. You know, there's been a lot of anime that fill that niche, and it could just be, you know, another one of them on the pile.
Well, the normies out there still very much, despite the fact that I have literally been arguing this point for 30 years, the normies still feel that animation is for kids. And this show, there's nothing adult about this show, but it's still a very mature show. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Right,
also,
where it's actually adult themes and adult storytelling, but it's not all super hyper violence or TNA.
Right. It's just a very understated and slow-paced story that is not designed in any way, shape, or form to hold the attention of a kid. It's intended to stimulate the brain of, like, an adult who maybe, you know, who would maybe enjoy idly thinking about this kind of thing in their spare time. But because they made this stylistic choice to have them all be animals, I think it's a thing that people who are already anime fans, who are already fans of animation, are really going to like this one. But I think it's going to have it's going to be impossible to get normal people to watch this, and because of that, it's not going to have a huge impact on the state of the anime industry. While they did do a lot of things with this story that was very different and very good, and which is another reason like the way they went about producing this is one of the reasons why it ended up so good, and it's one of the reasons why all like the people like us, like the critics and the reviewers of the internet, are all praising this thing, is because they went about it this way. But it's still technically a step back. It's not and to the side rather than an advancement in any sort of way. So I don't think it's going to have a lasting impact on it, and I think we're all kind of sitting here going, oh, this is really good, this is really good. But in a year or 2 years or maybe even 5 years, someone will bring up, oh yeah, and ODDTAXI was a thing. And we'll all go, oh yeah, it was, and it was really nice. But it won't be something we're sitting there thinking about, obsessing about day after day.
It could happen. My first thing is to say, yes, the hype is totally deserved. B, if you want initial stuff to make sure it sticks around, does it or does it not get on Toonami? That's one thing. That's
a good point.
Also, I would also point out that a few years ago, if you told me that Masaki Uasa would get to be like a big name that people are paying attention to and really wanting his stuff, I mean, like, nah, man, his stuff is amazing. It's great. I love it. But, you know, people aren't going to get into it like I think they should get into it. And then things like Devil May Cry Baby comes out, and all the various movies that he's done, like Lure of the Wall or The 9 Short Walk On Girl. And now, you know, Masaki Uasa is very much like, you know, a thing. Junji Ito, who has done lots and lots of amazing
I love Junji Ito.
horror manga. He's been doing it for years. He now has Pops.
No!
He now has Pops.
No!
That is the greatest horror of them all.
No!
So
I want him to write a story about Pops now.
So people who I never thought would actually be able to get the big name recognition that they deserve, it can happen now. However, I would also point out that ODDTAXI is not a big popular Shonen Jump property. Yep. You know, if you look at what's considered, quote, the big dogs of anime right now, it's My Hero Academia and Demon Slayer.
Yeah.
Both which are Shonen Jump properties. ODDTAXI is sort of this really neat thing that kind of happened out of nowhere. I would also point out that Baku Kinoshita, this was his first like real show that he got to shepherd into existence. This is someone I want to watch out for.
Okay, I gotta derail you for a second. Because we're just talking about things that totally deserve all the media attention that we're getting, but we didn't expect that they actually would get that recognition. Where is my Yuri on Ice movie?
So, Mappa Studios,
Basil?
Well, it's probably a little cubbyhole called The Olympics. Also, this little cubbyhole called by right now, there's this super now stupidly prolific animation studio called Mappa that is taking on bazillions of contracts, that it's putting on everything under the sun. They're putting out like 10 billion shows a year, and they are greatly overextending to get money for shows made.
Yeah.
And
they are
so
really overworking their people.
Which dovetails actually, so thank you, Doug, into the other point I was trying to lead to, which is right now, unless you're My Hero or Demon Slayer, all anime is a flash in the pan. All anime is done and forgotten about within a year because there's so much of it being made right now. Way too much of it being made right now.
I think the number of shows a year is still going up.
Yeah, there's been buzz about just how much anime was put out in this spring season that a lot of people had to say, you know what, if you can't watch the entire season, don't stress about it because there's just so much right now.
Yeah, you can skip the dozen isekai light novel adaptations unless there's one that just really vibes with you for some reason.
I mean, I think there's another factor in like why we might forget Odd Taxi, and that's just because the genre, like, you can't do much with the genre.
Yeah, the genre is it's done. Like, the story is done. Like,
it's 13 episodes. That's why it works so well, because they scope it really tightly.
Yes.
And it's kind of like indie movies versus big cinematic universes. We compared it to Knives Out earlier. Like, yeah, they're making a Knives Out sequel, but you're never going to have like a Knives Out extended universe because that doesn't really work for murder mysteries, right? Like, that doesn't work for these different types of movies. That doesn't work for a show like Odd Taxi. You can't turn Odd Taxi into a, 10-year...
huge franchise.
Yeah, franchise. And so, people are not likely to try to replicate it because it's going to be hard to do, and, you have to do it from scratch every time.
Really, real answer is you're going to have to check back with me a year or two and see if I remember Odd Taxi.
That is true.
Okay, Basil, make a note.
There are some anime that, for whatever reason, they stick in my head more than others, even if they were just like one season, one thing, that's it.
Okay, note.
In 1 year. We need a reminder somewhere in 1 year to ask us if we remember Odd Taxi.
Okay. So
ask Alexa or whatever to do that for you.
All right. But we are really running long on time.
Yeah.
So I will finish up this point of saying, again, I really want to see what this guy, Baku Kinoshita, does next. If he makes an anime, I want to be on the lookout for it, because this might be a one-time thing, or this might be the beginning of something awesome. Anyways, Tobias' last question is, what would your holy grail gotcha animal in Zuden be?
Albino cat.
Man, I don't want to play gotcha games.
That's
how they get you.
I gotta have the red panda. I gotta have the panda. And then I have to have a raccoon. And so it really depends on what is the rarity of all of these animals. I really want a leafy sea dragon. Gosh, I have a whole list. I want a southeastern slimy salamander. Yeah, because I got the whole list. I gotta come back to me. I got a whole list. I gotta come back.
I want like a cute dog.
Oh,
like that's like kind of like my dog, and a blue Russian kitty cat, because that's what I have as Carbon, because my kitty cat. That's who I want. Just whatever animal seems like particularly cute at the time when I'm rolling, like maybe even some sort of cool event animal that I can level up. Also, does Zuden let you like take like standard animals and level them up to SSR? Like, I've done that in gacha games where I'm like, well, this character's cool, but they need to level up. And Dragalia Lost is really good about like, no, you just spend some time and some items, and you can level them right up to be as good as everybody else. And I thought that was really cool. Good job, Dragalia Lost. You're a good gacha game. Dylan?
I don't want to play a gacha game, man. Gacha's how they get you.
Cool.
Okay, that is true, but
all right. Any more on the list, Doug? Or we have one last question.
Rabbits are on the list. I forgot to put down rabbits. Specifically English lops, but those are more of a pet, not really a zoo animal. Let's see. I still haven't found the document where I wrote down all the animals that I want to be.
Giraffes!
Oh my gosh, giraffes! Yes, giraffes! Oh, like, I have this whole list, and it's... Okay, describing it as the list of animals that I want to be is not exactly accurate. It's more like the list of animals that I think I actually am. Like the the forest tent caterpillar made it on there, and that turns into like the gray gypsy moth.
But okay. But now we got to get to the most important question that was given to us by Charlie at the sommelier.
Oh, Peacock. Peacock is definitely on the list.
Who Charlie might be a peacock himself. I wouldn't put it past him. His question is, would I like it? Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
That
Charlie.
depends, Charlie. Do you like good things? Do you like things that are good? If you like things that are good, then yes. If you don't, if you only like things that suck, then probably not.
Why did you spend this time asking this question when you could have been watching it with that time?
Yeah, Charlie. Why don't you watch this with your wife?
Charlie's gonna Charlie.
I found the list. Let's see. Black swans are also on the list. Wild turkeys are on the list. A cabot is probably the super rare one because it's not a real animal, but that's on the list. Oh, I want to put like the giant Japanese salamander is on the list.
In short, Zooted
Otters.
can never actually be made because we would just lose Doug to gotcha hell for cute zoo animals. All right.
Alabama
Zoo
Black
animals
Warrior
would
Water
be
Dog.
your
Did I
fate,
mention that one
though.
already?
I'm just going to say yes. So, awesomes out of awesome. Yeah, how many things are on your list?
5, 6, 7, 8.
One lucky lottery
14.
ticket out of awesome for a plot point we didn't even discuss.
That kid was
yeah.
so... Like, that kid was way cooler than any kid should be about idols.
Yeah.
17 awesomes out of awesome.
Based off Doug's empirical list of cool animals to play in a gotcha game. Out of awesome.
Are lynxes on your list?
No, lynxes can go suck a dick.
Oh.
Out of awesome.
That's my persona you're insulting.
Dylan, how many awesomes out of awesome?
One odd taxi out of awesome.
Dang it, that was my idea.
Oh no.
One cool Yano rap that I really enjoyed, even if Doug didn't, out of awesome. So, just go back to the list. It's fine.
Okay. Oh, sweet. Gotcha list. You know, tigers didn't even make it onto this list. Tigers should really be on this list.
Well, I guess you gotta draw a line somewhere.
Now,
We do an emergency podcast episode that's just Doug's list of
all right,
animals.
okay. Drawing the line here.
You should, really.
Podcast over. Let's get into my list of the final things to talk about at an episode. This episode was edited expertly, wonderfully, amazingly by Anna. You can find her on Twitter at Angel Darkfire. The middle A is silent. Our theme song was done by DJ Inabito. You can find him at djinabito.com or find him on Twitch/Inabito, I think. We've got our website, awesomcast.com. Go check it out. We've got our index of awesomes for our episodes, for our interviews, for our awesome quests when we do tabletop games, the Carbuncle Chronicle, our Final Fantasy XIV podcast. It's all there. Check it out. We're on Patreon. If you thought, well, this was worth my money, give it to us. Or if you just want to force Kevin to eat weird foods, $20, you can make it happen.
Let's force Kevin to eat weird foods.
That may or may not be on Doug's list. Discord. We have a Discord where you can talk to us about your ideas for what Kevin can eat. Or maybe just talk about Doug's animal list. I'm down with that. Or give us your own animal list as Apple Podcast reviews. Just also give us 5 stars while you're doing it. Now, finally, AwesomeCast is on Twitter. At AwesomeCast, I'm on Twitter at It's Basil Time. Kevin's at Twitless_Kevin. Dylan's at Dylan Wolf. Doug ain't on Twitter, but you can check out his Redbubble, Adumitsu. Thank everyone for talking. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next time. We're out.
And now, a message from the Staten Island Zoo.
Hey there, wildlife enthusiasts. My name is Mark Potzik, and today I'd like to talk about an animal that we all know, but may not know much about: giraffes. Sure, they've got long necks and spots, but what do we really know about them? Luckily, we've just received a brand new documentary from a group of students at Staten Island Technical High School. Now, I haven't watched it yet, but I've been told it's very insightful. Let's check it out.
One of the world's most gentle and majestic creatures, the
Giraffe! 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 We sleep 2 hours a day, but we don't feel the reaper. We eat from trees and play Minesweeper. We weigh 3 tons and come from outer space. Sent here to destroy the whole human race. Giraffe! 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 Vampire blood runs through our veins. Our forked tongues wag, driving you insane. You'll be herded in camps when the time is right, where we'll eat your brains for our delight. Giraffe! 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 There's no escape, let's end the hell!
Drinking gasoline and spitting pure fire, we take to the skies on the leathery wings of a bat.
This has been a message from the Staten Island Zoo.